Nick Nisi making Vim look easy.
Hoi hoi. Still rocking Vim.
I wrote you a poem, but that's as far as I got.
I like it.
Do you feel special? Do you feel sort of special because I wrote you a poem, but also not so special because that's as far as I got?
It's perfect.
I think that's
things don't have to keep going if they're perfect.
I think that's a metaphor for our entire relationship, you know?
Well, if you would continue, it would go to TypeScript, and that's just not possible.
Yeah,
that's right. The longer we talk, it's like, what's that rule about Nazi references on the internet?
What?
You know the rule.
I don't know any rules about Nazis.
What's it called?
I'm thinking of Microsoft Tay.
What's that? Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh.
This was a chat
The water's getting hot in here.
You don't remember this story? This is a chatbot that Microsoft released on Twitter like years ago, but before OpenAI and ChatGPT and all that. And it only took 24 hours for it to go full Nazi.
Oh, that's right. It was called Tay.
Yeah.
Spell that.
Tay.
Okay. All right. This is Godwin's law. See, I just wanted Nick to tell that story long enough for me to get the answer for the previous thing. So thanks, Nick, for that partay. Godwin's law is an adage from the early days of the internet that says, as an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches 1. So this is Godwin's law, but for TypeScript and Nick. Like the longer we talk to him, the probability that he brings up TypeScript approaches 1.
It wasn't even me. I don't even have to do it anymore.
Your reputation precedes you. Yes. Are you still TypeScripting? I think last time we were hanging out, you're writing PHP and stuff.
I was, and I am, but I'm still writing a lot of TypeScript, and I'm really liking it.
Are you using that new fast compiler?
Not yet.
No. How big is the code base you're working on? Is it fast enough for you?
Oh, it's small enough that I can fit it into a paste into Claude, the entire code base. So.
Oh, nice.
What?
How big is that? How big is Claude's context window?
Oh, I don't know. It starts getting mad at me when it's like around 200K.
Okay.
I use this cool site called Get Ingest. And so you just go to like github.com/whatever, but you replace the hub with ingest.
That's right. Did I teach you about that?
Maybe.
Change our news, man.
Yeah, maybe.
I logged it a couple of months ago. It's cool.
I liked it so much that I had Claude write me a bash script to do all of that for me. Vibe coding.
I feel like that's similar to me writing you a one-line poem. It's like I liked it enough not to write my own bash script, but to have somebody else write it for me. You know?
Yeah.
So that's how you write appropriate.
Bash now. What exactly are you doing with this Get Ingest bash script?
This is for when I'm like making a bunch of changes locally and I don't like it's not all out on like a public GitHub repo that Get Ingest can get at. I can just type. I called it digest for some reason. And I can just run digest and it'll throw it on my clipboard and tell me how big it was. So I can see like, oh, this is, 200K or 40K or whatever.
I feel like there already was a digest command that does like MD5 sums or something.
I have 3 Mac computers and one of them has a digest.
I thought there might be a namespace conflict there. That's an old Linux command or something. Who knows?
But not the one I use every day. My work computer, for some reason, it's at least my digest is higher on the path or earlier in the path. So it gets that one.
Why wouldn't you name it ingest? I mean, isn't that what you're doing?
Because I was creating a text digest of the repo.
Okay, fair enough. And how's that working for you?
My script kind of sucks, but Claude wrote it. So what can you say?
At least you don't have to personally identify with the crappy code anymore. You're like, you know what? Claude wrote that. So
exactly.
No big whoop.
It's wild how much coding has changed in a year. Not even a year.
Yeah.
Describe, say more.
It's a lot of, I don't know. It's also, I joined a new team a couple months ago, a new company, and left Meta, which was totally different.
Yeah, you had to use Llama. They made you use Llama probably.
Yeah, and it was really bad.
It was really bad.
Why I laughed when like I'll listen to Rogan, but I saw that clip of Zuck talking to Rogan about how they're going to replace mid-level engineers with AI like this year. Mm-hmm. That's his version of self-driving in 3 months. Like,
right.
It's not happening.
Yes.
Not with Llama, at least.
Not there. Yeah, Llama 4 was disappointing to folks. I didn't even try it because I saw it was like they dropped it on a Sunday or something. And it's like, by the way, Llama 4, go play with it. He's trying to be kind of cool. Zuck always trying to be cooler than he is. And then the initial benchmarks, like I think even the ones they published were like very impressive. And then people actually tried it. And it's like, no, it's not better. Or not as good as, Gemini or whatever although I found Gemini currently, this is Google's latest, to be disappointing, but I'm also disappointing. So, who am I to judge?
I have not used Gemini like even once, but I did download the app. I just haven't signed into it. I downloaded the app on my phone, but I was interested in it because I heard their context window was way bigger. But I haven't tried it because I can't figure out, am I using 2.5 Pro or whatever they call it?
Right.
I'm so sick of picking
I know.
Use the best one. Why do I have to pick and tell you to use thinking and all of this?
I know. Like that drop down on chatgpt.com is like, I'm like, you should just know which one I want to use based on the question I ask you, shouldn't you?
Yes.
I mean, you're smarter than me anyways, right?
That's it. My AI today, now, post-meta, working at a new company, working on a lot of different languages that I'm less familiar with, like Go, like Python, PHP, all these other languages that are terrible, that are not TypeScript. And it's great. I can just ask all these questions, and I'm going to say something embarrassing. This is embarrassing.
Okay, please do.
I pay for ChatGPT Pro, Claude Pro, or not ChatGPT Pro. It's Plus, I think, right? Because the Pro was like the $1 million one.
$200 a month, right?
No, I don't pay for that. I pay for the $20 a month.
Okay.
Yeah. I pay for Claude Pro, which is $20 a month. Perplexity, which I'm paying for, and I didn't realize for months because like I use Raycast, and Raycast gave me 6 months free of Perplexity Pro, and then it just charged me, and I forgot about it and didn't realize for months. But then also I'm paying for Raycast AI because it's just that convenient to have like a little, and I'm using them all, and I'm using them all differently. And here's the worst part. Like this just, I don't know. I don't even want to admit this, but like last week,
asking you.
Okay, never mind.
No, you already said you were going to. I didn't ask you to, but now that you actually do have to now.
Okay. Last week, Claude came out with, before that, like a couple weeks before that, I was like running into this thing with like Claude where I'd be like asking it questions, and it's like, hey, you can't ask anything more until after 4 p.m. because like I hit some limit internally.
Wow. Sure.
And I'm like, dang. And then I'm like, should I just pay
limiting.
for another? Yeah. I'm like, should I just pay for another account and keep going or what? And I didn't because I'm not crazy. Right. But then last week they came out with, hey, you can, instead of paying $20 a month, you can pay us 5 times that and get 5 times the usage. Or you can pay us $200 a month and get 20 times the usage. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that sounds reasonable. I haven't done it, but it sounds reasonable.
Which one did you go with? The 10 or 20 or neither?
When I do it, because it's more of probably a when, given the state of things, I'll go with the $100 one. $100 a month.
So you got ChatGPT, you've got Claude. That's $40, right?
Don't add this up for me.
Then you got Raycast,
He's not
which
doing
I
it for you,
believe
Nick. He's doing it for the rest of us.
is it like $20 a year. What is Raycast's AI version? Like $200 a year, $100 a year, I believe it is.
It's like you have Raycast Pro, and then you have what, like the AI stuff
bump
on top, which is like another $4.
Yeah, so you have to have already paid them $100 a year to pay them another $100 a year to get the AI.
Yeah.
So that's $200 a year. Let's just call it for Raycast Pro plus AI.
Sounds reasonable.
That's $240 in, but I guess you're also getting Raycast.
Yeah,
Right.
Raycast is indispensable at this point.
I can't live without Raycast either. Okay, this is not a paid ad. Raycast for life. Okay, Raycast for life.
For sure.
Almost lost it there.
I'll have to disagree in order to make it not a paid ad.
Look at Alfred over here.
There's our Alfred. No,
Yeah, old Alfred.
Spotlight, man.
Old
I just
Alfred's
run
over
Spotlight.
here. Raycast just ran circles around you.
Default macOS software for the win.
Nick,
what
let's
can
play.
what can Raycast do that Spotlight can't do?
Nick, what's your favorite Raycast feature?
Oh, the AI.
Claude.
The AI. Okay, non-AI feature, like serious Raycast feature.
Okay. I'm just, that's so hard to say. If I
Launching
had to
apps?
say,
Do you launch a lot of apps with it?
I launch a lot of apps with
let
it.
me tell you
but
about a little thing called Spotlight.
Okay, this is an app that, or like a feature that it just does that. There's a million apps that do it, but I like that it's all just one app, and that's a clipboard manager. I love having this pretty much unlimited clipboard that I can just constantly refer back to.
Yeah, the clipboard history, I believe, is unlimited. I believe it's unlimited. It does not sync across devices. So if you have a MacBook Pro and an iMac or something like that, they're not going to sync those clipboard histories.
But built-in Mac OS does do clipboard sharing, so then it does.
Well, I think this is by design. I don't know if this is, I think you can do it, but I think by default it doesn't do this.
Yes,
I like that feature.
Premium feature.
Dude, what I like most about the clipboard feature is that when you conjure it, I guess, whenever you elect to have this interface pop up with your history, you can search your history and paste it immediately. And it's like, that's like 5 days ago history. And it fuzzy searches the whole thing. So it's not like just like front or back. It's like all over the place in this thing. And so it's pretty accurate.
Well, let me use this opportunity to mention a little piece of freeware. Open source freeware called Mackie, Maccy, which is a clipboard history management tool that lives in your menu bar and does everything you guys are describing. But it's built by an individual who just loves software and just wants to put out free stuff into the world. And I use that for clipboard history. One thing well, guys. One thing well.
I was once like you.
Oh, okay. Tell me how you've become enlightened.
I'm already going to run Raycast to open my apps.
Why? Spotlight opens apps for you.
Yeah, but it can't do other things. I can't.
Like the clipboard management thing that I can use Mackie for. Like Claude, which has their own desktop app, surely. Oh, you're not selling me, fellas. You're not selling me.
Well, the good thing is we're not here to sell you.
I know
we're here to enjoy ourselves.
Well, I did kind of set that up as the compliment, but fair.
Get you.
Yeah.
Get you.
You know what's funny to me is that in our shared doc of potential topics for this conversation, near the bottom it says, I don't know who wrote this. Are we contractually obligated to talk about AI? And the answer is no. However, I didn't realize this, but Nick's more of an AI junkie than he is a TypeScript junkie because, I mean, what do we go, 5 minutes and he's already confessing all of his subscriptions.
Listen, I didn't want to tell you all this. This is so embarrassing. However, we're on a podcast listened to by the world, basically. Here's all my stuff.
I'm just, you know what? You embrace or you die.
Right.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah. Embrace or die.
Here.
This is worse than streaming services, though. You're probably paying more for
that's why I had to add it up.
these
I was like, this
models
is
than you
insane.
are for your streaming services. I mean, is your wife okay with this, or your employer? Hopefully, your employer is helping foot the bill.
Listen,
Listen.
Listen.
We don't need to talk about that.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Sorry.
I
I didn't want to get too personal.
I get some benefit out of it, and it's real good. And I am not a person. I would not say that I'm a day-to-day vibe coder. Like for one-off things like a digest script, like just do that.
Now, are you just using the term vibe code because it's fun, or are you really referring to the practice of vibe coding in which you don't even look at the source code that's been produced?
That is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't even look at it. Like the digest script, I barely know.
Oh, man.
You don't even know.
Ooh.
I mean, it's bash, right? And who knows? Nobody knows what that does.
Did you hear about the latest security vulnerability?
Yes, actually.
Yes, I did, but I'm still vibe coding. I'm still not even looking at the code.
For day-to-day stuff, I don't use it in that way. I'm a team of one right now too. Okay. So like I'm using it as literally another coworker. Like this is somebody that I can bother, and they're an idiot, but they're helping me to formulate my thoughts before I go talk to somebody actually smart, like any of my other coworkers.
It's a warm-up method, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I can knock off some low-hanging fruit, and I'm not like just copying and pasting code from them. I will give them the repos that I'm working on, and like everything I do is an open source, so I'm freely able to do that, which is like a privilege, I'm sure, like where I'm at. But like I give it that so that it has the context, and then I can ask it questions, and hopefully it knows like, hey, that method that you're telling me to call actually exists. And like, even when I give it the entire repo, 80% of the time it's correct. It'll make up methods the other 20% of the time, or things that don't exist.
Right.
So like, I totally don't trust it,
Right.
but it's better than staring at a blank screen and wondering what to do. I can like ask it some questions, and I mostly like keep it at like a high level, like architectural style thing. Like my favorite thing in the world is to like talk through, like, here's how I want to do it. Okay. Now like, let's create a mermaid diagram and just like,
Right.
like visualize how this is going to fit together.
So now I'm understanding a little bit more why you're paying money, because it's not so much the utility of the tool that you want. It's just that you're really lonely.
Yes.
Because you're a team of one. You need someone to talk to. And these things just fill that void. You're like, let's make a diagram while I think through this. So you're rubber duck debugging, basically.
Exactly. Tell me, and who else is going to tell me like how OIDC works to the tune of Lil Wayne lyrics,
Yeah, exactly. It'll play along with all your stupid games like I used to on JS Party. Oh, funny. So how do you know, like, does Claude and ChatGPT, do they know about each other? Or do you keep them completely separated? Like, is there any sort of weird, awkward relationship vibes going on? Because how do you know which one to turn to and when?
Oh, yeah. This is a great question.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you asked me.
All right. Tell us.
This is mostly vibes, I think, honestly.
Okay. This is how you're feeling.
You have to vibe into the vibe.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like pre-vibe coding.
That's right.
The vibe I got is just like, I don't really use ChatGPT much for work.
Okay. It's more of a hangout after work, kind of a chill.
I have it because like I play with it, and my kids and I have been doing a bunch of image generation stuff, which has been fun. But then also like, sometimes like my daughter and I are like halfway through the first Lord of the Rings book after having just read The Hobbit. So we read actual literature, but sometimes we just goof around too at bedtime, and we have like, I'll just like ask my kids for a list of things that they want to hear. And then I'll throw in like a message, like, a message about not fighting with your brother, and then have ChatGPT generate a bedtime story for us that has all of that. And every single story that my kids create has like, dad fell in the toilet, or dad turned into a butt, or, typical things that a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old would be talking about. And that's a lot of fun, but that's primarily how I use that. And then occasionally for writing, although I kind of like Claude a little bit better for that. But Claude is the workhorse here. I really like Claude for code. I like the interface for it. I like being able to set up projects for it. And like, you can give it a bunch of context in those projects that it'll just share each time. And then as of like yesterday, I'm like in this, but I'm also very slow to adopt things. But yesterday I integrated GitHub's official MCP server into it. And wow, that's so nice.
So what did that do for you?
It can like do a bunch of things. Like I can have it like respond to pull requests and issues and stuff.
Okay.
Like for me, I'm not letting it go that far yet.
Yeah.
There's a trust that has to build up before I do that.
Right.
But like an issue comes in, and I can just be like, hey, issue 44 on this repo, give me a summary of what you might think. And it already knows about all the code because it's in a project. So like, give me your thoughts about where I might start looking for like what could be the issue here. And it can just go fetch that. And it's like, it's saving me the steps of having to go copy and paste is basically it. I'm getting less use out of my favorite tool of Raycast, my clipboard manager.
Your copy paste.
Yeah.
That is cool. So how close do you think you are to that trust threshold when you can just tell it, go comment on this for me?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm scared of that because like, as much as I use AI, I don't want anyone to know that I use AI for.
Well, you're telling everyone right now.
Wait, this is the show?
Listen, as much.
Don't send this to your manager.
Cut this out. Cut this part out.
They're actually really cool about AI too. Like I was playing with Devin for a little bit, the $500 a month AI coder. And I don't think that it's very good, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. And I like the main thing that you're always doing with all of these is managing the context, right? I'm constantly thinking about when Claude's going to give me the little purple message that says my chat's running a little long and how succinct I should try and make things. I've got some like preset scripts that I'll throw in there, like preset what do you call those prompts? That's like, you are, going forward. Like there's one specifically that I use right now that's really good. And it's like, going forward, don't assume that anything I tell you is accurate, because like the worst thing about any of these is when they're just like, you're yes man. They're just like applauding everything. You're right. And it's going to tell you that you're right. I want it to challenge me and tell me like, what are the things I'm not thinking about? And like, I'm crafting prompts that help me that I can just paste in when I feel like it's getting a little, I don't know, kiss assy for a better word.
Right.
Yeah. And then I can, set it straight. But then like you're managing those contexts, and like that's where Raycast AI comes in for me, because Raycast is like, I have it set to like option space, and that pops up in a little window, and that is reserved for the queries that I want that are like one-offs. Like I'm having a conversation over here with Claude about this, I don't know, feature of Next.js. I'm talking to it about next cookies, and I want to go deeper on next cookies, but I don't want to screw up its context. So up pops Raycast, and I have a discussion over there about next cookies, and then I go back.
And what are they using? They're using Claude also, but it's a different session.
They'll use whatever you want, but yes, I use Claude 3.7 mostly in there.
He's so excited about this, Jared, isn't he? Look at his face.
That was like me in temporary mode the other day when I just wanted to be a temporary conversation.
Yeah.
Except for it didn't work, but it's like that.
Yeah. Are you managing the context, or is the context managing you?
That's too deep for me. Stack Overflow. Oh gosh. I'm still a Neanderthal with these things. I have it set up in Zed. I also just use chatgpt.com, and then I have Olama, which I had open in a terminal session. I just talked to it. But I don't have the patience to wait for a lot of these things unless they're going to be right. And I just find ChatGPT is right more than any of the other ones. However, with Zed, which is still my daily driver editor, I can just switch back and forth constantly between different models and see which one I like the best. And I just don't like any of them, honestly. I get angry. Their code sucks. I'm just like, I can write this better myself. I don't mind. Like, I don't like a blank screen when it comes to creativity, but when it comes to software, I'm just like, got no problem with it. Like, I know I just start writing. So I'm still trying to find where it fits out. I have it write functions and stuff for me. I just am always like, this function sucks,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't want to think that. I want to be like, good job, little guy. That's a great little function you wrote there, So
sounds like you're in the same boat as me though. Like I don't use it for, I'm going to say like, I don't like how long it takes for responses and things like that. Like when I'm in the flow of coding, it's more like pre-coding where I'm using it the most. It's having the conversation and making sure that like validating my thoughts on the approach before I go and waste a bunch of time.
Yeah. And I'll actually use it now and I've said this on the show a few times already, just to replace Google basically. Like I just don't Google anything anymore. I just ask an LLM, and I'll even honestly ask it for the docs. I'm like, how do I use this function? Like, give me the API and a couple examples. And that for me is faster than going and finding the docs in some cases, especially for obscure libraries and stuff. Although the more obscure, the less accurate it happens to be. But that's just part of the game. And so I'm basically just using them at that level. Once I have it generating code for me, I think maybe I'm just too controlling in particular about code.
Same.
And it might just be a me problem, where I need to get over it.
Nope.
But I just don't like no, it's not. Okay, good. Thank you.
There's a place for us too.
Thank you. But I'm okay with it. And I continue to do more, just like slowly more. Yeah. And I told Adam this on the last Friends where it's just him and I talking about, I'm not sure you heard the one where I turned him into a walrus and all that, but
it's good.
That feature inside of ChatGPT has been a little bit of an eye opener for me of like, we don't got long, man. We don't have very long because that was like a huge improvement all of a sudden in the image generation land where it's like, why would I hire anybody almost ever at this point? Whereas last year I was like, yeah, this is not going to actually produce anything I could use. It's great for like ideas and stuff, but then you have to go hire someone to actually produce the final logo or whatever. And I just feel like that ship is sailing very quickly, and I don't see any reason why Except for maybe the intricacies of the software development platform and all the different things can go wrong. Maybe might just give us a longer hedge, and the subjectivity of creative work versus the objectivity of does it work right, that kind of thing. But I don't think we have too much longer left. Do you think, Nick?
I go back and forth for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's when I let it vibe code for me, it's real bad. So that's why I don't do it much. But I mean, just think of where we were a year ago, 2 years ago, right? It's come a long way. So I don't know.
Has it come a long way in prose? Because I feel like it's so average at writing. Like it's never impressed me the way it has with these images. And I wonder if it's actually gotten better, if they're still testing that. Like, maybe you're better answer, and Adam as well, because don't you use it to generate some stories and stuff as well, bedtime stories and things, Adam?
I have before.
Yeah.
So Nick's story of the bedtime story was very familiar, except for it was not exactly the same. Definitely have had fun around that stuff. Image generation has been something we've done before. Conflict resolution, like how to respond to a certain email even. I think what I don't ask it for is what to say. I ask it for like, okay, here's all the context. What am I missing from this scenario to maybe establish more empathy or just word salad them a little bit more than I should, kind of thing. It's really iffy. A lot of communication type stuff, a lot of framework thinking, a lot of ideation, sort of evolution, stuff like that. Math. I love doing it with like word math. That's the best. Hypothesizing a scenario with, multiple inputs or, multiple scenarios and which one plays out to have the greater outcome. I don't know. You name it. It's kind of wild, honestly, to even have that as a tool.
Well, let's change subjects since we are just now doing what we do on every episode. We'll just talk about AI. And
we'll be
let's
back.
talk about, it'll work its way. It's just weaving its way into every part of life. It's like COVID, COVID weaved its way into every aspect of life there for about 2 years, maybe 18 months. And I remember thinking more about the mind virus than the virus, because it's like, I remember one time I was at a meal with friends, and of course, everyone's just talking about, this and like, all the things. I mean, you can go into all the different things, like the social distancing aspect, how it spreads, the vaccines.
Oh, they're acting weird.
The lockdowns.
Oh, can you believe what they did?
This person had it. Here's what happened to them. This person had it. And I was like, y'all, we don't give very many opportunities to hang out and have dinner, just us adults here. Like, it's actually infected our minds. Like, we can't talk about anything else except for back then we called it the coronavirus,
Oh, yeah.
And I was mad
coronavirus.
because it's like the novel coronavirus. I'm like, can we talk? It's like a mind virus more than it's a virus. Anyways.
Can we pause for a second and talk about how Corona beer was actually like hit by that initially?
They're like, wait a second, guys.
It was like a small bounce back. I was like, whoa, hang on a second. The Corona beer and coronavirus, different things, okay?
Right. If you don't want to get it, don't drink Corona. Like that would have been really bad for their branding for like only 3 months or so, and then we moved on, called it all sorts of things.
I'm not sure if that says something good about humanity. Like, are we just that stupid?
Yes.
Are we just that stupid?
No hesitation. That's why we're afraid of these AIs. They don't have to be that smart to outdo us, It's not much.
To manipulate us for sure.
Well, for sure, yeah.
It doesn't take much, really. I mean, a couple yaks in and you're shaved, I mean, like, come on.
That's right.
You're on a whole different subject thinking it's real, and meanwhile, it's all simulation.
Have you seen the, now we're getting way upstream, but
Doom
it's nice up here. The water's
of course.
warm. Have you seen the ones where there's people that were posting on Instagram and TikTok and other places where they're like skeptical of mirrors because how can the mirror actually see the reflection?
How can it see me over here?
And I'm just like,
do you not understand how mirrors work?
This is wild.
How does it see?
All right.
Behind the towel.
Right. And it's not just one kooky person. It's like there's a whole, there's probably a website with a forum on it at this point.
Maybe we do need to reinvest in education.
All right. Busy bar. Let's get busy talking about something else.
Lame. Busy bar.
Busy bar. I thought, let's talk about some hardware. You think the bar is lame, or what do you think?
I'm just messing around. Like
Okay.
going from that to like busy bar. Come on.
It was not a good.
Can they compete? We'll see.
What is it? What is the busy bar?
Okay, I TIL today on this. Had no idea existed. It seems to be a hardware device
Yes.
that has that's programmable in some way, shape, or form. It's got an SDK or an API that you can program against it. You can tell the world you're busy. You could do Pomodoro. You could tell somebody you're on air for podcasting. It's like an LCD pixel display that does all sorts of cool stuff. Automates into Home Assistant and other things. It's like the hardware meets the ideation software, event change.
You're making it sound pretty cool.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So here's why I thought we could talk about this, because you guys love hardware. I mean, Adam's always buying stuff. Nick buys a bunch of stuff, don't you?
He does buy a bunch of stuff, and he has opinions.
Just like spending money.
Software, a lot of software.
Yeah, a lot of subscriptions. I'm sure there's probably a subscription play in here
consolidating
somewhere.
down into Raycast.
That's true. Now, could you integrate Raycast with BusyBar? Probably.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
Because this thing is like, it's about the size of an alarm clock, wouldn't you say? Maybe a larger alarm clock. Supposed to sit on your desk or somewhere. I think it can even mount on your monitor.
Yes.
And like face the other way for, people, and if you're RTO'd already and you're back in the office. It's got like a big, looks like it really is satisfying to push, like start/stop button, like one big button on top.
Massive button.
Yeah. And then one
like
dial.
Imagine the button and like triple the size.
There's a dial and another knob. And that's about it. They call it a productivity multi-tool. And the thing is just programmable to the hilt.
So
I
many
thought this is
hilts.
the kind of thing that Nick would super want to buy. So I just thought I'd ask you, like, you want one of these?
I did see this before you posted it.
Fair.
And I kind of shrugged it off, but then I saw that you put it in here, and I was like, let me go look at it, and then I was like, fine, I'll buy it. But you can't buy it yet.
I'll
So
buy it.
luckily,
Did you actually put a purchase down?
oh no, you can only give them an email and they'll let you know when it's ready.
Yeah,
and I
that's
did do
probably what it
that.
is. It's probably vapor hardware at this point.
I know, and I hate that.
There's so many of these hardware projects that just don't come to fruition,
Okay, but the saving grace of this one is that I think that it's by the people who do this, the Flipper. Right?
What you got there?
This is the Flipper Zero.
Oh yeah, sorry, I had to
gosh.
expand to see your whole screen.
You have this thing?
What is that
do.
thing? It's like a
Tell the world what this is, Nick. It's the coolest little device.
Nick buys stuff, okay? He's got all the hardware stuff.
Nick is now an official staple. Bring your hardware wares. Let's go.
Right. All right, so what's the Flipper?
I don't know. It looked cool.
I don't know. It looked cool. They had a sign up form, so I signed up.
It's like a little tool that you can use for some lightweight hacking of various things. It's got some antennas in it and different like sensors to make like physical hacking kind of cool, I think. Although it's not like super, I don't know, everything's encrypted, right? So it can't like, it's not going to break that encryption on this little tiny device. But like things that aren't encrypted, it can do. It can
like old Wi-Fi networks that aren't.
it might be able to. I don't
Hotel
know.
keys.
Hotel keys, yeah,
Okay,
it can do
good
that.
call.
I've heard, I've never tested this. I've heard that it can open the gas tank of a Tesla.
Oh.
So yeah.
Wait a
that's
second.
cool.
Teslas don't have gas
Oh,
tanks.
I mean the charging port.
Oh, you trying to pull a quick one on me? I'm done, but I'm not that dumb.
He did get me for a second. I didn't even catch that part.
Maybe I've been duped on that.
The
I don't know.
charger. You're talking about the charger container button thing?
Yeah.
Now, why would you want to hack the charger, like to charge it up for somebody before they know?
Listen, I don't condone terrorism, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but-
do you vandalize? You're not one of these Tesla vandals, are you?
Oh no. Not yet. No,
Not yet.
No.
This is... He's got a hacker tool, and he's saying he's not a vandal yet.
I have done nothing with this thing.
Okay.
I got it, and then I got too busy to to play with it. And I just for you, I plugged it in so that it now has a battery charging.
So it's charged up.
It's the red light is on it saying that it's because I just did it like a minute ago.
So at best case, you bringing out this Flipper Zero solidifies the fact that the Busy Bar may actually ship because they're the same people.
Good point.
Yes.
They shipped a Flipper.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did.
And this is
pretty
world
cool.
renowned too. This Flipper Zero is really sought after, does well. I've seen some demonstrations of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's some really cool things. If you're a Switch player, like a Nintendo Switch, you can set up your Flipper to be all of the amiibos things that like get you extra, like the little dolls that you would buy.
So you don't have to go grab them?
Yeah.
I might actually think that's cool. You're selling me on it.
Did you ever have,
get it?
when you were a kid, there was this like toy. It was called a Casio Secret Sender 6000.
No.
Oh, it was like
amazing.
it was like a little like PDA before PDAs were really a thing, but it was totally a toy.
Public
Right, and it
displays
was-
of affection?
Like a personal, what does that stand for? Oh,
I don't know.
personal digital assistant, I
There you
think.
go. Fair. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, it was like one for kids, and it had like you could have a little journal in it, and it had some games. And if somebody else or within 20 feet of you had one, you could send messages back and forth over its IR port. But it also had an IR port, so it could be a remote control for any television.
That's
So
cool.
you know me being the hacker in second grade when they'd wheel in that giant TV.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it turned off randomly once every time, and nobody knew why.
Just once. huh?
they never
I'm not gonna
knew
push
it.
the buttons too hard.
Until this podcast right
Just
here,
once.
when I tell the world about my AI
This is like-
infatuation.
This is like taxi cab confessions with Nick Nisi.
Gosh, Nick.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't have one of those. I did have a Game Genie though. Did you guys have Game Genie?
No,
I wish I did.
Game Genie was so cool.
What was the fundamentals of the Game Genie? What did it do?
Well, it was basically like mods for your NES games. You know, like modding is cool. And so with Game Genie, it would somehow you'd plug your NES game into the Game Genie and then the Game
Right.
Genie into the NES. And it would be a middleman. And you could basically turn on different superpowers and cheats and all kinds of things to make games easier because games were really hard back then, especially some of them. And so it's just a way to make the game kind of more fun. Any serious gamer wouldn't use it, of course. And I was only a serious gamer on a couple of games like Zelda and Mega Man, but everything else, it's like, I don't care. I'm going to be awesome and excite bike, you know? So Game Genie was cool. I don't know how it worked or why it was a thing or if the game companies were happy about it. I'm sure there's probably a YouTube history of Game Genie out there I should go watch, but it was a cool device. But this Busy Bar does some cool stuff. So for instance, it's smart home integrated. So anything that works with Apple, HomeKit, or Google, whatever their competitor's called, you can connect everything up. And so this one button could, like you're busy, you're recording, bam, your whole house could respond, right? Like pause the music that's playing out of your home device. What are they called? Your Alexa.
HomePod.
Yeah, HomePod. Thank you. Turn off all the lights in case it's one of those kind of a shows. Lock the door, perhaps. Close the garage doors. Start your laundry. I don't know what else you want to do when the show goes on, but connect it all. Connect it all.
That's cool. I would really like that if I had that button and I push it, and then like in this like ominous voice throughout my house, it just goes, "Dad is busy," and it just plays that on repeat over and
Like
over.
an announcement.
Mm-hmm.
It just plays it nonstop until you touch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But my room is insulated somehow in this magical world, so I
Right.
don't hear it.
Right. Yeah, that would get me to buy one. And it's developer friendly. So right out of the box, Busy Bar comes with an open API ready for integration into your project. So, you could probably get your CI/CD involved. You can probably get your Raspberry Pis involved. Looks like it's taken Golang, JavaScript, Python, etc. None of your languages, except for you said you're writing some Go now, right? Is it because the TypeScript team likes it?
I'm not that basic, am I?
I don't know, just wondering. People were up in arms because they picked Go, like this was a big controversy.
It makes sense.
Did you read any of the back and forth?
Oh no, I watched some interviews with like Anders Salzberg.
Why does it make sense, you think?
From my understanding, and I could be totally getting it wrong, but my understanding was that they want to do like a 1-to-1 port to the point where they basically wrote like code mods that would take a line of JavaScript and spit out a line of Go and like went that far.
Yeah.
And switching over to another language like Rust that is not a garbage collected language like Go is and JavaScript is, would mean that memory management would be handled differently, which means it wouldn't be a true 1-to-1 port, which would let bugs sneak in potentially.
Yeah, it'd be more of a rewrite, like a ground up rewrite in a new language versus an actual port. Yeah, and apparently Go and TypeScript have a lot of the same idioms, I guess. I mean, garbage collection being a huge one in that sense, of course. Mm-hmm. JavaScript, itself is kind of a C style language, which Go is also influenced. So that makes sense. Of course, C# was the one that people were like, come on, it's Microsoft. Isn't C# supposed to be Microsoft's, powerhouse? It's workhorse language. Didn't Anders create C#? He did, but he also didn't write it in Delphi, and he created that too, didn't he? So I thought it was a cool pragmatic choice by them, versus being like, well, we are Microsoft, therefore C#. It's like, or Rust, which is also burgeoning inside of Microsoft. It's like, let's actually be pragmatic about what we're trying to achieve and just go that direction. And it sounds like that might have won out, which pragmatic choices, I think, in large engineering teams don't always win. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people were confused about that announcement, apparently. They thought it was the TypeScript runtime that was 10 times faster, not the compiler, which would be like a huge win, wouldn't it? Like, hey, all your TypeScript code runs 10 times faster than it did. It's like, oh, you don't know how bad my code could be. You're going to make my code faster? Please.
TypeScript has a runtime?
Yeah, well, and Edge, that's the other thing with the C# is like, well, couldn't you just more easily work it into, no, that wasn't the C#, it was actually the Rust people saying if it was written in Rust instead, you could more easily get it into Chromium and Firefox than in Go. And then you could start to do what your ultimate goal is, isn't it, Nick? Is just to have TypeScript become the runtime of browsers.
Yeah, I think we're getting there, potentially. Like I see signs of that with, there's obviously the types as comments thing, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, type
I forgot what they
annotations.
call it. Type annotations,
right. Yeah.
But then like in the latest, I think 5.8 version of TypeScript, they also added that erasable syntax only flag, which is like setting you up for success with the types proposed.
Remind me what that does.
That prevents you from using things that would require runtime code. So like enums, for example, those get converted into like these weird object things. And so it just prevents you from using them. Another place is like there's a shortcut when you're using classes in TypeScript where you can just say like in the constructor, you can list out all your private methods. And then that way, like they're defined as private properties. I mean, they're defined as privates, but you don't have to like define them above, then define your arguments, and then have like in your constructor a setter where you're actually setting them. You can like condense it all into one. Well, there's a lot of runtime code that has to happen for that to take place. So they prohibit that as well with this. And basically it's just like everything has to be erasable, which is perfect because like also in the next version of Node, I think you're going to be able to run TypeScript unflagged, which will be great. Run it by just stripping the types.
Run it by stripping the types. Right. Well, these are baby steps in that direction, aren't they? Mm-hmm. You think it's ever going to be actually built in?
No, I think that'll be where it stops. But maybe I'm not thinking. It stops
with the type annotations feature, which probably will make it into browsers.
I think so.
Yeah. Do you think that's good enough, or do you wish it was actually?
What is it going to get me? Like faster speeds? Is that it?
Hypothetically, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'll say something that I'll regret if I continue. Why would we need that? We'll never need more
say anything that you regret on these shows, Nick.
Right. I don't think that TSC is very slow, like when I run it in my editor, but apparently
I think that
is.
this was a scratching their own itch kind of a thing. Meaning, if you have massive code bases, right, well, of which Microsoft probably does, that's when TSC slows down.
I can't remember what file it is, but one of the files in TypeScript's code base is like 53,000 lines long. And it's just because like it would have performance costs to split it up.
Is that one that Anders coded up on a bender one time or something? You think he vibe codes?
Oh, no.
No. He's significantly gray-haired. The graybeards don't like the vibe codes. Well, what else is exciting in the world of TypeScript so we can poo-poo it and move on?
I don't know. I'm just enjoying writing it again.
Yeah.
It's fun. Don't miss flow.
Yeah. What is it? I mean, is Flow only inside of Facebook? Is there other people that use Flow?
There used
when I
to
say
be.
Facebook, I mean Meta now.
Yeah, there used to be. I think years ago, before like 2018, 2017, somewhere around there, I interviewed someone from, I think, GitKraken. I think they were using Flow, but they eventually switched to TypeScript too. But that was the only other company that I ever knew of that actually used Flow.
Mm. It's weird how somebody with the clout of Facebook engineering, which is what it used to be called back when these things came out, was so influential that they were able to get React highly adopted and GraphQL highly adopted. Not quite as successfully, but still. But Flow just didn't quite catch on, you know? You ever wonder why certain things do and other things don't?
I do wonder. I don't know why, but like I wonder if that was just like a fluke that React did catch on in the way that it did. Well, I mean, React 19, is that catching on as much as it should be? Like, is it adding too much complexity? Is it too much like two in the bag with Vercel? Is it?
That's my read on it. Those two things.
Yeah.
Took too long, too hard to explain. People are starting to get the ick. Yeah. Because of the tightness of that relationship. And even when we talked with Dan Abramov, a couple of years ago now, you and I talked to him and somebody else, I can't recall who, on JS Party.
Joe Savona.
That's right. Even then, I was like, isn't it weird that you all's like official stance is you should use this in Next.js, but that's a project that you don't have any control over? Like, that's a weird thing. To like the React team's official stance was, don't use this directly. Use it via frameworks, of which Next.js is the only one that does it back then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that just seems like not a good situation to be in.
Why is that? What was that the recommendation?
Because there was no framework. I mean, because Meta doesn't have its own framework. React is just a piece of the puzzle, and Next.js was a widely adopted framework that stayed pretty much in lockstep with React's previous releases and using the new technology there's simpatico, or they were simpatico. I'm assuming they still are. They collaborated tightly. You know, there's a lot of friends between the two teams. That's my take, Nick. Why do you think anything else? Why that might be the case?
Yeah, I think that like when Facebook was introduced like Flux, like the Flux pattern, remember? They didn't introduce a Flux library. That came later. I think it was Dan Abramov, actually, who came out with Redux. That was an implementation of that. And I think in the same way, like Next was the one to adopt server components as an implementation of this theory of how this could be done from the React team or in collaboration with the React team. But for the longest time, honestly, I don't know anyone else who's doing server components in that way. I've been playing a lot with Remix / React Router and Tanstack Start, and they all have their own ways of doing server things, none of which are really like server components in the way that they're described or used within Next. Yet, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole messaging is just kind of a ball of wax that was very unattractive to me as a guy who's, in the industry, but not in the daily mucky muck of the React ecosystem. I'm like, this just doesn't seem like attractive, whatever's going on here, you know? And I think a lot of people feel that way. Doesn't mean they're not using React, and React was a game changer. And so I'm not here to poo-poo on it like I am TypeScript by any means. But, and it's still a great choice, I think, as a standalone library. And I think that you can get React features in smaller ways or different ways. But I think the RSC stuff has made it just too complicated and and the Next.js relationships made the whole thing muddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because now you're getting in bed not just with Meta, which already doesn't feel like amazing, but now you're also in bed with Vercel. And I don't have anything personally against Vercel or anything like that, but some people do. You know? Some people are like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. My recommendation, if anybody asks, which nobody ever does, but my recommendation is to go with Astro until you're absolutely positive that Astro can't solve your problems.
Okay. Why do you recommend that?
It's just such a delight to work with. I originally switched to Astro because I was like, I really like React, and I was using Eleventy before, and like this is for my like personal blog, right? And so it's a nice playground for stuff like this. And I thought, I'll switch to Astro because I like their component model, and I can just use React and it'll be great. And then I set it up and I never used React. I think I use React now like for one or two things, but like their Astro components are like amazing. They do so much. And then like built-in support for like with the server island stuff now, like you effectively have that way to dynamically reload pieces of the page from the server, from, you know, a running worker or whatever. And it's super nice and so easy to set up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you need React, like you can literally just inject React and build a spa on that page. So it's great.
Do you think it falls into that category of slightly too obscure?
Maybe.
Because for a lot of people, that decision, like that is a major aspect of their decision making.
Yeah.
We were just speaking with Anthony Eden of DN Simple, and he talked about how he likes Erlang and stuff, and he's built some of their core infrastructure in Erlang, and eventually it like a lot of it's Go now. And it's just the reason was like, well, because like nobody really knows Erlang, not him, but you know, like just the numbers aren't there for Erlang people. And it's like, what about Astro? Like, is there Astro jobs out there to be had? Or, you know, like that whole thing, is it slightly too obscure? I mean, Elixir's kind of in that middle ground as well, where it's like, yeah, the people who know Elixir are few and far between. They're generally good developers, but that also makes them expensive to hire because they are rare and usually good engineers. Whereas Ruby devs are a dime a dozen, you know, so to speak. And same thing with TypeScript folk and React people, right? And Next.js, like everybody knows Next.js.
Yeah.
And so does that make Astro slightly too obscure to be worth like investing in?
To that point, I've never seen an Astro job listing, but
Same.
I also haven't looked.
Yeah, same.
I think at that point too, it seems like from my perspective that Astro is focused on like these content driven sites versus, I'm not sure what is not content driven, but marketing is content driven. So if you're building a marketing site, it's going to be content driven, not just, you know, you think about who is, you know, what are those kind of sites being used for? So it's probably a front end to a new tech company, probably great for that, right? And then you get into this, just careful now, is the world where you might want to say, what about Framer instead? You know, so you got Astro, which is like non-vibe coding, and you got Framer, which is kind of like vibe coding in a way for, you know, taking this design tool and turning it into a developer tool. Now, John Long here on this show a couple weeks back talked about Framer, and he's a front ender. He's a developer. And he was reaching for Framer in the case of his works scenario. I think, you know, if it was a personal project, maybe he would choose probably a Ruby-based project, but probably something more like Astro, more like an actual developer tool versus Framer, which is design turned website. And I don't even know how it works, but he's singing the praises of Framer. So I haven't used it personally.
I've never used Framer. I've just gone to the website for the first time.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty sweet.
So there are Framer jobs out there. You could be in marketing or be in, let's say, like product marketing, product management, and there will be listings that say has experience with building out front end websites with Framer. So I'm not sure if that matches to Astro or not, but they're like in similar camps. You know, a Framer site is usually a content driven site or a marketing site, probably similar for Astro, where it's either a personal blog, a personal portfolio, or somehow content driven.
Yeah, and I think to that, like their first class support for like Markdown and MDX and all of those content pieces like does work to their detriment to being considered like alongside a Next or a React Router or a framework like that.
Well, you know, a lot of options out there. How do you choose is really, I think, the thing that has driven me crazy my entire career. Like here I am as a personal person just using Eleventy for its principles of like, hey, it's basically just HTML, CSS with a little JavaScript if you need it. Mm-hmm. And in that case, I think, what was I using that for? My personal site is in Jekyll. I think it was the CPU website, Jared. Actually, the very first one was like Eleventy. Keeping it simple page, but keeping the code more simple than literally an HTML page with CSS sprinkled into the style bracket or something like that. That's where I used it. You know, it's cool though, you know, keeping it simple.
I've been using Eleventy a little bit myself lately. I've been doing this thing called the developer dictionary in News, where I'm just like jokey definitions of developer terms. And I thought, well, I want these to all kind of look similar, but be kind of content oriented. And I might eventually actually, as I accumulate these definitions, I might eventually want to put them on a web page or something. And I'm not a designer, but I know what a dictionary looks like. So I was like, I can put together enough CSS, you know, combined with my coding assistant in order to have a nice little design. And I want to write the definitions in Markdown. And so I'm writing them in Obsidian and want to then pull those into a uniform looking website that I can eventually publish. And I was like, well, Eleventy can do that. And so I dove into the world of Eleventy. I like how simple everything is over there. Zach's done not just Zach Leatherman, but him and a bunch of people now have done a great job with their docs and with making it very approachable. And so as a old school, you know, static site guy, it just all makes sense to me. Like I was like, very easy to just do stuff. And haven't shipped anything yet, but I just use it to write in Obsidian these definitions, and then each one is like a well-formed Markdown file with like the same. I'm using all the YAML front matter as basically data, and eventually I can pull that into a database and write it, you know, in an actual CMS somewhere. So it's kind of like progressive enhancement for a web app, where it's like it starts off as Markdown files and static stuff, but there's a very easy path of like turning that into a database in the future.
I like that.
It's cool.
And Eleventy is really great. I think I switched before WebC came out publicly. Mm-hmm. But that I was thinking in components, and I wanted to think in components.
Which Astro has that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Eleventy now does. That's exactly, but didn't back then. So WebC is Eleventy's take on web components, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm touching none of. I'm literally HTML, CSS, zero JavaScript, because I'm just putting some HTML on a page and prettying it up, you know?
Yeah. I was doing all of these like short code things in my Eleventy config, which also last I checked, couldn't be in TypeScript. So I was like, just madness because I didn't know what anything was.
That reminds me, here's a pro tip that's old, but maybe people haven't heard it, which is whenever you're writing a bash script, or if you're not vibe coding it, if you're actually writing it yourself, use the long form of the arguments in all of your commands. You know, there's always a short form and a long form. And so like the long form will be like -- file equals, and the short form is like -f, you know? And we get so used to the short forms because it's faster. It's easy for one-liners. But if you're actually writing a script that you're going to come back to later, it's self-documenting to use the long form every time. And so use the long form in scripts. I'm fine with short form for your one-liners and your command history. But force yourself to use that long form, because it's so much easier to understand, especially if it's like FFmpeg stuff. I mean, so many different flags that mean so many different things. And you can come back and be like, oh, I know what dash file means. Whereas dash F, it's like, does it mean format? Does it mean file? Who knows? Now you're in the man page. So rando, but you just inspired me to say that. I think there was an old changelog post about that. Wasn't there, Adam? Way back in the day.
I was gonna interrupt you because I wanted to mention this exact thing. This is, I believe, Adam Yonk's only contribution. He contributed one post, I believe,
to change
to
the blog.
What was the blog, I guess? I don't know, the news feed at some point. Like, it was just like, it could have been like tips. It could have been pros. It could have been a project. Like, the criteria back then was a little different, but his was advice. And essentially this, like, if you're going to write a script, do the long form version of it, because when you come back to it later, it's basically.
I remember him writing that. I remember him writing that and me being like, that's so true. It was kind of like something that just is like so obviously true when someone says it, but then somebody had to say it once. I mean, he might have been the first one. Probably not. What year was that? It's probably like the 80s when someone first said this, but it's just a good idea.
This would have been 1979.
Oh, wow. So he is the first then.
No, it was probably
mid 2000s,
like early days, 2010. Yeah, 2010. I mean, that's crazy to say that's early days. That's early days though. 2010 is my guess.
If I find it.
Sometime in 2010. JAHNKE. Yonk.
Use long flags when scripting. 2013.
Now that we've shaved that entire year, we'll link it up in the show notes. That's a good deep dive though, because I mean, it's phenomenal advice. I think that was the first.
It's such a simple little tip, but it's like so obvious. You're like, yeah. There's no reason not to. Like, you're going far enough to write a script. You might as well make it more scrutable when you come back versus inscrutable, which is how they usually are. Now, if you vibe coded it, who knows what's in there? Who cares?
That's why when I rsync, I'm always long flagging it, man.
Are you?
Oh yeah, long flag for life.
Heck yeah.
I'm just remembering, not that I've run the tar command anytime recently, but I know like tar-xvf or xzf. But like, I don't know what those flags actually do. I just know that one way of doing it will tar something, and
right, and then the one will untar.
Yeah.
-xvf. Yeah, it's like extract. One of them was recursively, or the folder. F stands for folder.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like if you do it without that, it's just gonna do a single file. The V I can't remember. And then it's like that. No, that's the extract. The create is -CZVF. I'm not sure what any of those are, except for the C means create, I think.
So you'd know that if you kept the dash in there. And
well, this is all from memory, just from typing out one-liners all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked.
But wasn't there like extract Z files? Wasn't there like a mnemonic device people said? Like,
oh, yeah.
I think K-Ball used to say that. XVF is XZF, extract Z files. And then the other one's like create Z freaking. I don't know what it was. I'm butchering it, whatever it was. I think it was K-Ball. Somebody has this like mnemonic device for remembering tar commands. And one was extract Z files, and the other one's like create the.
At this point, I'm wondering who is paying attention to this podcast right now. That's what I'm
probably
wondering.
nobody. Well, we're at the end, anyways.
I'm wondering who is paying attention to this stuff here. Phenomenal advice.
Nuggets
though.
of gold.
Phenomenal advice, though.
Phenomenal advice. Yes.
Yeah, this is where the good stuff. We drop the good stuff at the end. So, what else is on the list here? Revisiting browsers. I don't know. Still using Safari.
Yeah.
You moved on.
I have.
Oh my goodness.
I was forced at Meta to use Chrome, and like it was Chromium for a while, and then they like forcibly uninstalled Arc for me, and I was very saddened by that. But they didn't forcibly uninstall it.
They uninstalled Arc for you?
They didn't forcibly uninstall it. They like all of the internal tools would like check, and they would just not work, and then they would eventually lock you out of all of them, and you'd have to go ask to get unlocked and then never use that browser again. It was terrible. But I'm back on Arc, and I hate that. I want something like that, like something that's easy to manage with tabs on the side. And so I'm still in Arc. I tried Zen browser for a while, but honestly,
Zen.
Firefox isn't it. Like,
So you're still using Arc?
I am.
Wow, you got hooked.
I did.
Even though it's dead?
Even though it's dead. I know. It's like
Dead man walking.
Yeah.
So how is Zen that much different than Arc?
You just run.
Isn't it pretty close?
It kind of is, but it's super confusing in its config. And then it doesn't have syncing. So
And that's a fork of Firefox, or it's just based off Gecko, or whatever Gecko's called now?
I don't.
What does it not have? No syncing?
It's basically Firefox. I didn't know Firefox was still a thing.
Zing.
Ooh.
See, here's the good stuff at the end.
See, now you're listening. Perk your ears up. We got 20 more minutes in us.
files.
Let's do it. All right. Slay that Firefox dragon.
Yeah, I don't know. Things just break in it all the time. You just want like, I don't know. At this point, like, which browser is going to give me the best experience for the 1Password extension? Safari ain't it for sure.
Oh yeah.
It works
I've been getting
well.
really upset with 1Password.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to built-in-passwords.app. Life's good over here in built-in land.
You know, they just like pop up their UI in these places, and I'm like, get out of the way. I just want you to be a normal field. Don't clutter up my interface with your suggestions. And
Yeah, I get
This
that
is
for
not
sure.
an ad.
no, this is actually well, I don't. So this is where I actually would love to talk to somebody behind the scenes at 1Password on their product
fans. We're big
implementation,
fans.
right? Yeah, big fans, but like they must have it rough because you have to dance around different idiosyncrasies depending upon the browser. So Safari has its own thing.
It's got to be a constant uphill battle for them.
It's not native. It's never going to be this beautiful work of art, although they've done their best.
They should just get acquired.
Except in
They're
Safari.
probably too big at this point.
They are too big at this point.
Pixelmator got acquired
By
By Apple?
by Apple.
When? What year?
Maybe
Last
Recently?
year,
2025 or late 2024. Yeah.
Really? Finally? I mean, like it took long enough, didn't it?
Yeah. Took a long time.
Yeah.
They're not as big as 1Password though.
I've been actually in this really weird world where I'm like anti-Mac only software. Thankfully, 1Password is not Mac only software.
Oh, because you're a Windows guy now.
Yeah, I'm an everything guy.
I wasn't
Linux,
aware of this
Mac,
before
Windows.
I decided to come on, just so you know.
What's that?
I wasn't aware that you were a Windows guy. I wouldn't have agreed to come on.
Oh gosh, Nick, you're missing out, bro. Man, you're missing out. Windows is where it's at.
For what?
You think I'm kidding around here?
Yes.
For what? He wants to know where it's at for what?
Where it's at for everything. Everything works in Windows. Everything's amazing in
Microsoft
Windows.
works?
Yeah, it all works. Linux even works on Windows. I can SSH into my Windows box right now and treat it like Linux with all my cores and all my RAM available. And I can add to it as I want to. I can ZFS. I can do whatever, all via Windows, man. It's amazing.
I'm doing some side work, and there's one person who's doing it all on Windows, and we're simplifying with Docker containers for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Docker containers just don't work on Windows. I don't understand it. Could be that
Really?
I don't know how to use Docker because I really don't. But
Or Windows.
I have Docker containers running, no problem.
It could be.
I would blame the user at that point, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it could be. But you know, it does work with the other Mac developer that I share it with. So
Maybe that's more of a commentary on Windows people than it is on Windows.
I will admit that Docker runs via WSL, which basically means it doesn't really run natively on Windows. It runs natively on Windows via Linux, which is the Windows subsystem for Linux. That's what WSL stands for.
that might be more native than on Mac. So
Yeah. Well, it's not native on Mac. That's for sure.
I had an issue with running Plex and passing through a GPU and all that stuff with Docker. So there's definitely some, but that's going to be common. Like a PCIe device pass through to a container is always, a crapshoot. It's always a challenge.
oh yeah.
But I really do like Windows a
So
lot.
I
It's
just run
actually
everything bare metal.
really solid.
Just load your operating system, put the stuff on there, It'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Write a script. Run the script.
Vibe code that script.
Long flag it.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, these bash scripts I wrote for some stuff I do for archiving and stuff like that, they now have been ported to Windows, which basically is nothing. I mean, it's just moving the file there, making it executable.
Changing the slashes to backslashes.
No, I don't even have to do that.
You must not be referencing any Windows file paths.
It reads them both. What I do is I hop into Windows, I up arrow until it says WSL space
Oh, so
dash
you're talking
D
Linux. You're not talking Windows.
space Ubuntu. This is on Windows, dude. Are you kidding me? Last time I checked, the host operating system was Windows.
WSL is a subsystem for Linux.
Yeah, I hop into that. Next thing you know, I'm on Linux. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, you're on Linux. Of course, // work on Linux.
I can navigate and traverse the entire Windows file path and run any Linux command against that Windows file path.
So you can type C://
C:// Well, you'd have to CD.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean it does. It can do either or.
And you can do
//
an LS or a dir.
Both. LS is working natively out of the box for subsystem for Linux and Windows. I mean, what I think honestly, is super cool is that you can have this box with Windows and Linux on the same box, and it acts as if they're the same. Like there's a marriage. Like there's really no difference between Windows and Linux from the command line, because when you run WSL, everything that is Linux can access the Windows file path. Like there's no difference. It's all just the file path. It's actually really, really cool. I mean, there's probably some challenges with it that I'm not hitting personally, but I mean, I think it's pretty freaking amazing that you can run Dockers and all this Windows related stuff and Linux, and it's the same box. It's crazy.
I know people who pay quite the premium to not run Windows ever.
Yeah, what a shame though, because I mean, so here's an example, is that you can air cool, obviously, your CPU, right? Like you can run a fan or two fans and have a heatsink on it and keep it cool. But you can also run an all-in-one cooler, like a water cooler, to keep it really cold and like 60, 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit kind of thing. Maybe that's Celsius. Yeah, probably Celsius. That's my guess for that. But you could do that stuff. Like if you wanted to swap out an air cooler for a water cooler, you could. If I wanted to add a PCIe card that adds 4 NVMe drives and allows me to have a 16 plus or 32 plus terabyte NVMe based ZFS drive on this window box, I could right this instant. My gosh, you could not do that with Mac. I mean, you can, but it's not the same. So it frustrates me.
Told you he likes hardware.
Told you.
My computers barely have fans.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Well, mine can actually heat a room. It doubles as a heater. Or it could if I didn't cool it well enough.
That's multitasking right there.
That's right.
All right. Well, the nice thing about computers is different strokes for different folks, and we can all do what we like, and we can all support each other in whatever it is we want to do. What are we excited about? I'm excited about getting outside this spring and seeing what the world looks like. What about you guys?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We live in the same place, and
yeah.
Every year, like around this time, I'm like, I don't think I can last another minute of this cold weather. Just get
been bad.
Oh,
it's been rough.
Terrible.
It's been windy. Holy cow. I mean, you think we live in Chicago with how windy our city has gotten.
I got up on my roof yesterday because some cap over like the furnace exhaust thing blew off, and I had to get up there to measure to buy a new cap to go to then go back up there and put it on. And it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds yesterday or something. Like that's what it felt like up there.
That's no cap.
My dad was holding the ladder, and it was trembling. I was so terrified.
You picked a really bad day to do it.
I did.
You could have done it today. It's like really nice out right now. But yeah,
you know what I did?
It was miserable.
I got up there. I measured it. No, luckily I was very close. I got up there. I measured it. And a roofer came today and put it on because I wasn't going back up there.
We weren't going back up there. He picked a much better day. What about you, Adam? What are you excited about?
Honestly, golf, man.
Golf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You've been golfing.
Really getting into the game of golf.
Nice.
It's a great time for it. Great weather for
Great
it.
game.
It is a great game. It's a great thinking game. My brother visited recently, and I've forgotten how much I love golf, and he loves golf as well. And so we just spent time on the courses, talking and gabbing and riding the carts and planning our shots and, you know, what you're going to hit with and this and that. And so it's just been fun getting back into golf, man. I mean, really is a fun game to think through. It's such a mental game more than it is physical. It's both.
It's both. Yeah.
Yeah, very much both. I mean, you can't, if you had a disability where you couldn't do golf, like, I guess, with legs and arms, I mean, it's challenging. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely both physical and mental. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to be able. So, I mean, I got 2 arms. I can barely swing that club. You know what I'm saying? Like, be like if I hit it on the iron properly and whatnot. But, you know, I love golf. I love the mechanics of, I think, like a lot of things, you can find the unique details between certain things and say, well, if you're hitting with like a wood versus an iron, there's a whole different way you stand. There's a different place the ball might lie. There's a different approach to it. There's different, you know, all sorts of different mechanics that go into it. And so golf is such a game to play with friends and such a game to just tour the world with too. So you can do a lot, man. So like for the next time we travel, I'm thinking like, man, we should hit some golf courses up when we travel instead of next time. And
Yeah, I always struggle because I'm a lefty, so it's harder to find clubs. But Nick, what were you going to say?
I was going to give you a pro tip that I saw on TikTok.
Okay.
Next time you go and you really want to just like show up all the other golf people, you know those like cap guns? You can put little like caps in there. Put one on the golf ball and it'll just make the most amazing.
Yeah, she'll get somebody. I'm like, what?
Smoke comes out? That'd be cool.
Yeah, I hit that ball really hard off the tee.
I should do that with my kids, like not tell them about it, but just because, you know, sometimes they'll hit balls on our backyard and just out into the corn trees. That's not a thing. Corn stalks, cornfields. There you go. And I don't play very often because I don't like to be bad at things and I'm not very good at golf. But I can go out there and put a cap on it and just explode one and then just retire, you know, and just never hit again. They'll be like, do you see how hard Dad hit it? Thing was smoking. That's a good idea. I should get that working.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you like golf, Adam, let me suggest a close alternative. It's called disc golf.
Yes.
Okay, now,
oh gosh,
here's the pitch for disc golf. All of the upsides of golf, none of the downsides. All right, here are the upsides of golf. You're outdoors on a nice day. Check. You're with friends. You get the conversations. Check. Mm-hmm. You get to have some sort of challenge mentally, physically. I mean, you're throwing a Frisbee instead of hitting a golf ball. Check. All right. Here are the downsides that you avoid. It's not that hard. Golf is very hard. You get frustrated. The ball goes sideways, etc. It's cheap. Cheap as in free. There's no tee times. There's no signing up. You don't have to dress real nice. You can go shirtless. You can go shoeless if you want to. Nobody cares. It's disc golf.
You do have to buy discs.
You have to buy discs, but compared to golf clubs, it's cheap. And, you know, a round of 18 on a nice golf course, we're talking what? 60, 70, $100 per round. What are the other downsides? The etiquette's pretty much gone. You know, golf has all the rules, all the etiquette. You got to do things right. Don't do them wrong.
Really?
Fix your divots. Oh, yeah. Do you know all the etiquette? You better learn some.
It's called common courtesy. You know?
No, there's specific etiquette in golf. It's not just common courtesy. It's like you wouldn't know that if you weren't a golfer. Here's the only downside of disc golf is you got to hang out with stoners pretty much because they're the ones out there. They're the ones out there disc golfing. You know, it's like you and a bunch of hippies, but they're good people. They're very chill. You know, they'll let you play through. So disc golf, give that a shot.
It's like Frisbee?
It's Frisbees. Yeah.
What happens if I'm throwing it here and it goes way over there?
You got to walk over there and just like golf, you got to go over there and throw it from there.
See, I'm pretty decent at golf. I can hit it on the fairway.
All right. Well,
I'm not that good at Frisbee. That's for sure. Now, however, though, when I was young,
everyone
I'm talking about really young, I wanted to be a professional And you can't say it professional. You gotta say professional.
Okay.
I thought you said
Professional.
professional.
I thought he would too. Like he's gonna be a fisherman.
Yeah.
Professional.
Professional.
Professional. Lawyer.
No, man. Frisbee player, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Like ultimate frisbee?
Skipping it off the ground twice into your hands, you know? Skipping up the ground twice through the hoop.
No, there is a pro
catching
tour.
it under the leg, you know?
There's a disc golf pro tour. This dream could be alive.
No, listen, the dream is dead.
Isn't
the dream is dead.
MKBHD, isn't he on like the pro?
MKBHD is
that's
professional
Ultimate
frisbee,
right?
Ultimate frisbee. You're right,
Yeah.
Jared. Yeah.
Yeah. Good game.
Which basically means there's no rules. There's no rules, and they put gorillas in the.
He's also hanging out with stoners because ultimate frisbee is one of those
ultimately,
games that
yeah, you know they're
they're hanging out in the common area at the university. You know.
What is this podcast?
All right, let's call it a show. Let us know in the comments which is better, golf or disc golf. Or what Nick does, which he just wakes up at 5 a.m. and rides a bike for 2 hours. Isn't that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I want to, but I'm becoming such a baby with the cold weather. I'm just,
Oh yeah, well,
It's
it's your time, man. It's your time.
What's you go out there and bike in the cold for 2 hours, or what's you're a bicycle guy?
I try and get like when I'm not being a baby about the weather, I try and get 20 miles in before my kids wake up.
Bam.
20 miles.
That's
in.
about 2 hours, right? Or a little less.
80 minutes or so is what it takes
Yeah.
me. I live right next to trails, so it's very easy. And the wind, there's like no wind in the mornings I found, so it's really good.
Nice.
Interesting. Why don't you just get yourself a Peleton or something like that?
Oh, that's so boring.
Nature.
Really?
Yeah, I actually traded my stationary bike for a rowing machine. Much happier.
Oof. Yeah, I'm long Peleton.
You ain't lying.
Is that a funny joke, Jared?
It is funny.
How long have I been long? I've been long Peleton for a very long time.
Yeah, you have.
I've been so long that they're like, nah,
They
we're
said
just done.
so long to you.
We're done. We're
Yeah.
done with this. You know, we got to quit because this guy's just not stopping.
All right. Well, this show's getting long too. Let's say goodbye. Nick, thanks for hanging out, man. It's always fun.
It was a blast. Thank you.
So good, Nick. Bye, friends.
Bye, friends.